Good evening.
The main reason I know about this movie is because this freaking video always popped up as a related video to one of my most disturbing movies video. That's a lot of video in one sentence. But I never watched it because I saw another The Young Turks video a while back and I got a bit annoyed. But that's totally besides the point. So then people started recommending the movie and I was like, hey, maybe I should just look into it really quick. So I read what it was about and I was like, hey, this sounds very similar to an incident I read about a long time ago. And that incident, it made me like super angry when I read about it. But I'll come back to that later. Anyway, I was curious to how it would make for a movie. So I was like, let's just check it out. As I always do.
So, let's start by taking a look at what this movie is about. And I'm warning you though, this video is probably gonna have some major spoilers, so proceed with caution. It's a busy Friday night at McDonald's, at Chickwig. Does it even exist? Probably not. This movie made me a bit hungry though, with all the shots of food and what were we talking about? Oh yeah, busy Friday night. The manager gets a phone call from a man who identifies himself as Officer Daniels. It's pretty exciting stuff. He informs the manager about how a young female employee has stolen some money. That being this girl, Becky. She's brought to the back office, but she claims she is innocent. So now it starts to get interesting, right?
By this point I was like, this is actually really close to that one story I told about earlier. So, knowing that story, I guess I already figured how the movie was going to play out. Just like everyone that's familiar with the story that this movie is based on. I think it's actually like a completely different experience if you watch this movie without knowing anything, because you're like, whoa, what's going to happen? So, here comes the big bad spoiler. So for the people I warned earlier, I'll just end the video for you right now. The guy on the phone, he is not an officer. It's a scam. The girl is indeed innocent, but they don't know that. So, let's just see how all of that plays out. There's a little bug here.
The officer comes up with some weird reason why everything has to be handled right now through the phone, so the manager has to look through Becky's stuff and whatnot. It starts to get a bit weird and perhaps suspicious when she has to strip search the poor girl. They both just do as they're told because, the guy said so and he's an officer, right?
And I believe this is where the critique starts. Unbelievable, unrealistic, blah blah blah, But remember, boys and girls, this is based on a true story.
So like I said, a busy Friday night, so the manager has to help in the restaurant. Do you call that a restaurant? Like fast food joints? But anyway, the officer tells her she can't leave Becky alone, so she decides to ask her fiancé for help. This guy will keep an eye on Becky, and the officer, through the phone, will tell him what to do. And this is where it gets crazy. Becky has to do jumping jacks to shaking things loose, because, 90-year-old girls usually steal money and hide it up their, And from here on, it basically just goes straight downhill for Becky, escalating into receiving spankings and performing oral sex. The fiancé then leaves, so someone else has to keep an eye on Becky. The manager takes in a maintenance guy, the only sane person in the whole movie. It literally takes him...
Hello?
And trust me, I counted. It takes him exactly 22 seconds on the phone to realize that this is a scam.
Mister, I don't know who you are.
And that's after an apparently already 3-hour-long ordeal of sexual harassment and whatnot.
That is just crazy. But you know what's even crazier? It actually follows the real event pretty damn close. If they had set this movie in a McDonald's, it was basically a documentary. The movie starts with the words, inspired by true events. They should have just put down this shit happened. Really, like, all the characters were there, the strip search, the jumping jacks, the oral sex, everything happened for real back in 2004. So the argument, the movie sucks because it's unbelievable, nobody will do this, it doesn't really work. I mean, the movie is only as unbelievable as life itself. Hey, in the end of the movie, they even actually like copy parts of the actual interview with the manager from the real event.
What were you thinking then?
Sandra, you won't answer those kinds of questions. You aren't answering that. We won't answer that.
She can't answer that question for me.
No.
And you walk
Okay, we're not going to answer questions about
right
that.
past it. She can't talk about this?
Not about
Which is kind of weird, but yeah.
First of all, I liked the movie. I honestly thought it was pretty good. The acting was top-notch, honestly, just as the casting. Well, perhaps with the exception of Becky. I mean, the real Becky, who's actually called Louise, is like your everyday girl. The hot blonde chick in Compliance seemed kind of like a Hollywood cliche. But besides that, it was nicely shot, and I really enjoyed the sort of offbeat soundtrack. And to top it off, a perfect running time of 90 minutes.
Like I said in the beginning, the story just made me like so mad. Whether it's towards the prank caller or the manager or her fiance or even the victim, it's like, I just couldn't believe it when I read about it. Who would do all that stuff just because an officer tells you through the phone? That's like, when I'm put on the spot, I might not think 100% rationally, and I guess it has occurred that after something has happened, I'm like, maybe I should have said this, or I should have had handled like that, but minor things, you know. This went on for 3 hours, and, well, you've seen the review. That's really not your everyday stuff that went down there. It's just, It might be notable that this all took place in a small city in the middle of nowhere somewhere in the US, because honestly I think if you take an LA girl, for example, put her in the same situation, she would be like, fuck that shit.
There's all kinds of discussions about the movie. Some saying it's a social statement, right? People should question authority more, and they make comparisons to earlier examples like the Stanford Prison Experiment and the Milgram Experiment. While others say it simply just plays for shock value.
Whatever the case is, it got people talking, and that is always a good thing.